You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
I got Bantha. It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file.
That doesn't sound too hard.
This is Making Tracks.
This is the way.
Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
I know these people. They are brutal. Does this look Jedi to you?
That's not how the Force works.
They'll never see it coming.
Count me in.
Lisa back.
Hello and welcome to episode 258 of Making Tracks, brought to you by those fine folk over at fanthatracks.com. My name's Mark Mulcaster, and joining me this week, in fact joining me most weeks on most of my Star Wars adventures, he's not small, he's super tall. It's Mark Newbold. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, factually accurate. Yes, I'm very good. How are you?
I'm all right. We had a busy week last week, didn't we?
We had a really busy week. I mean, we got around quite a bit, but that's the kind of guys we are. Leicester Square, noodling around London. It was most agreeable.
Do you know what? It's funny, actually. I was stood there at Tottenham Court Road for this Mandalorian and Grogu pop-up food truck with all these other influencers. And I was like, I could get used to this swanning around, influencing people kind of like lifestyle.
You are very influential.
Had worse days, but it's more of a case of like, yeah, I'm getting too old for this. And I'm definitely getting too wrinkly for this as well.
Oh, mate. Don't say that. I'm older than you, so...
Yes, that's true.
I'm clinging on by my fingernails at this point.
I mean, we had May the 4th. Celebration tickets went on sale. And then we had the Mando and Grogu fan event. Yeah, and then for me, I had a troop at Disney Store May the 4th and Royal Salinger on Saturday. So it's been busy.
Busy, yeah. I was up at Star Wars Fan Fun Day when you were down at Disney Store doing that, and I've seen the pictures and it looked like it went amazingly well.
Right.
Fan Fun Day was brilliant. We've got some content coming from that fairly soon. Some new interviews, some new people we've not spoken to there, all from Andor. We saw the first 20 minutes of The Mandalorian and Grogu. We can't spoil that because their snipers are better at aiming than stormtroopers.
And actually, for those who are of a curious nature and weren't able to either get to that or maybe the 4th IMAX sneak peeks, but if you're desperate, there are breakdowns. You can find those online. But yeah, we shall say no more about it. However, we did get together a small Jedi council of like-minded individuals who did luckily get a chance to join us at the fan event and get the sneak peek. And we had a chat with them after a couple of Burger Kings.
Okay, we're on Leicester Square. We've just been to the UK fan event, kind of ish premiere thingy, teasery thing of The Mandalorian and Grogu. We stood outside Burger King, which is doing the Star Wars promotion. We're all full. I'm here with a bunch of Star Wars luminaries.
I thought you were going to say losers then.
Well, I was going to say loonies actually.
Luminous beings.
Loonies. I'm going to start to my left, Mr. Mulcaster. What did you make of that?
What, the 20 minutes that we saw?
No, the Burger King. What do you think?
Well, the Burger King, actually, to be fair, I thought was pretty good. It was better than the Stephenish one I had the other day.
Matt, what do you think of the film?
I really enjoyed what we saw. It was great fun. A good action adventure, lots of fighting, lots of stuff, some good dialogue, good bits of comedy, and really nicely done. And a couple of homages, some old school stuff for us old farts, but yeah, loved it. A couple of member berries, but yeah, really nice. Just a teaser.
Spoilers, Matt. Spoilers.
Karen, you are going to speak on this podcast. Yeah. What did you think of that?
I thought it was great. I thought it was quite fast-paced for the first 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Bit of comedy in there. I think they're targeting the younger audience as well as honouring those original Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
So you keep me see more?
I am, yeah.
Keep me see more. That's a good start. Charlie.
Hello.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
But
well,
if you want to, you know.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I thought, I don't know what I was expecting the film to be like. And obviously we only got 20 minutes of the film so far, but I mean, it does a good job of having the TV show adapted to the big screen. Do you know what? There's a lot of sort of Bond moments for me. Like it felt like a Bond film.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, like the pre-title. Yeah, like really enjoyed that, and I think I kind of miss that sort of aspect. We don't really get to see that as often, especially with Bond films. You don't get to see a Bond film for like 20 years. So.
Well, that's very intriguing. It did have that Raiders of the Lost Ark vibe about it.
Yeah.
The end of the last adventure before you kick off on to the next
exactly.
one. Matt, what did you make of that?
I really like the double whopper.
Yeah. The Mando meet was excellent, but the Mandalorian and Grogu, 20 minutes. Do you know what? It moved very quickly. It got from A to B to C extremely quickly, and this time, I actually didn't mind that. 20 minutes we're in, and then the rest of the film is that execution of that mission. So I'm here for it. But yeah, good visuals, the music, some of the music, different. Really enjoyed it though. But it looked like it was made for the big screen. One of my biggest concerns was, will it look like a small screen show blown up for the big screen? It looked like it was made for the big screen. So very happy, very happy.
It's a good point about the music. The music was sort of a bit of electronica in there.
Well, it's Ludwig Göransson, wasn't it? So, and he has his ability to kind of like do very kind of eclectic kind of soundtracks.
And stepping outside of the regular Mando style. I mean, you got that at the opening.
That planet we visited when they went in there, it was a totally different style of music for Star Wars. We're not sure what planet it was, but we go to a planet and it's like, oh, that's a bit different.
But you think you go back to Attack of the Clones and you get to Coruscant in Attack of the Clones, and the electric guitar comes in. That was different. So
it's that kind of switch out.
Richard with the sexy voice. What did you think of that?
I thought it was very good. As you can hear, the voices going. But,
you were screaming at Pedro, weren't you?
Oh, screaming all the time. I think basically what everyone else said was worried it was going to look like a TV show. It does not. It has definitely been done for the big screen. Can't wait. 2 weeks.
There you go. That's going on the poster. So, what do you think about the fact we're here on Leicester Square, which is brilliant, and it's some of the gangs back together. We're all here talking about this, which is great. But ultimately, we have just seen 20 minutes. We've not seen the film.
No.
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
I tell you what, it's really weird because I was getting really comfortable. And I was kind of like, I was completely like...
Even when they threw popcorn at you?
Especially when you threw popcorn. And I mean, when you talk about a big screen, we obviously saw it at the Cineworld IMAX in Leicester Square, which is a huge screen, and we were really close. I don't think I've ever been so close to an IMAX.
We were closer for episode 8, weren't we, Mark?
We were closer for episode 8.
And in fact, about 20 minutes just kind of flew by.
Really
and what was quite nice was like there wasn't really anything. And obviously it's a safe kind of like selection because it's all in the trailers and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say. From Matt was saying, there's nothing that Matt just said there. That wasn't given away in the trailers, or it was already out there.
Exactly. There wasn't like any kind of wow moments, but I mean, it was great to see Sigourney Weaver actually have some interaction and kind of really kind of playing that kind of more authoritative Colonel Ward. So that's quite cool. So I mean, mate, I can't wait for it. I know we're gonna see it a couple of times, I think. Hopefully. So
we've got the press screen, the multimedia screening.
Multimedia.
So we will probably, I would imagine, be pretty much where we are right now.
Yes.
Talking about it. These guys are already talking about it. I'm going to turn to Charlie now. So with what we've just seen. Where does your gut feel like this is going to take us? Do you feel like there was a tone set in those 20 minutes that we just saw? Do you feel that tone continues, or do you think it's going to break out into something a bit different?
I think we've been given a very interesting 20 minutes to watch. It felt very much, sort of the tone of the Mando show. I think the carpet will be pulled under us. Like I think they're carefully laying out this sort of happy-go-lucky, adventure. But I feel like
full sense of security.
Exactly. I feel like something big is going to happen in this film, and I'm really intrigued to see what they do with it. Because this is the Mando on big screen. Like, what can you do to push out that TV mold? We'll find out, I guess, in a few weeks.
I think his next mission is to bring Elf in. That's his next mission. But speaking of important things that are coming up in the immediate future, I can't not have you here on Leicester Square outside Burger King and not ask you, how's Galaxy Palooza coming together?
Very, very well. June the 6th at the Mill Arts and Crafts Centre in Rayleigh, Essex. So be there, everyone. Going really well. Preparations. It's tough. Very rewarding. We've got a few more announcements to make alongside the first-time signers we announced recently. Cool. So if you're not coming along, Mark Newbold will be there. That should be enticing enough. But no, coming along really well. We're really excited to host the first event, and fingers crossed it all goes smoothly.
Notice he said first event. There's going to be more.
Yeah, first of many, I reckon. Yeah.
Is he signing copies of The Insider there?
Should be.
Yeah.
If you can get copies of The Insider, I will do it. Although I do use an auto pen, I'm a lazy bastard, so...
Well, he uses ChatGPT to write his articles, so why not?
Damn it, he's figured me out. Well, on that happy note... so we're all looking forward to the film. I mean, we're all keyed up now. We're all ready for this.
I will say, because you just spoke to Charlie about how do you expect it to go.
Yeah.
I think it needs to slow down when we get into the film. If it goes at that pace for the whole thing, it will be a bit Rise of Skywalker in the sense that it just blasts through too quickly. It does need to slow down. We're going to have some time with Mando and Grogu. Like the trailers are telling us that there's going to be a real emotional dynamic between them. I just hope they take the time to really establish that and yeah, exactly. Bit of ebb and flow. Give us the action, but do slow down a little bit because after all, it is a film and not a series.
Great point. And we haven't seen any Anzellans yet in that 20 minutes either. So we know we've got 35 minutes at least of those doing their thing. So on that happy note, I think we'll wrap up for now, and we'll reconvene soon. I'm sure we'll all talk about this in our respective shows. We'll be seeing you guys at Galaxy Palooza. Are you at Galaxy Palooza?
I believe I am.
Well, so am I. And so, yeah, we'll see you all there. But, yeah, more Burger King, I think.
More Burger King. May the Force be with you.
So that was fun. I enjoyed that. Having my Zoom in hand, waving it around you all like a tricorder or something that you get stopped at the airport for. And obviously the guys from Star Wars Sessions are brilliant. And Charlie and Imperial Senate Pod is a fantastic guy. And your wonderful partner, Karen, the star of the Lego Smart Play advert, as I tell everybody. And rightly so. So that was very cool. So we are going to the multimedia screening. So by the time the next episode of Making Tracks comes out, we'll have seen the film. So we'll be able to talk about the film.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. What we saw, the burger was nice as well. It was great fun. And the excitement level is high. I have one gripe, and it's a minor gripe, and I'll talk about it because we're going to be back for reaction chat soon.
Something's going to bug you, and it happens to me. There was one thing that didn't necessarily bug me, but I was kind of like, that's a bit interesting in the preview. And it's whether or not actually when we go and watch it again and subsequent times, whether or not actually it's not really a big thing and it's not really an ego, or if it's actually systematic of maybe other issues that the film has. So, but I think it's fair to say that we are very excited. I know I'm very excited. I hope that this will be the shot in the arm that the fandom needs because it's been too long a time since Star Wars has been on the big screen. And as Kathleen Kennedy has said numerous times on the fan events, this is the biggest screen of them all.
Hi, this is Robert Ems, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Michael Pennington, who played Moff Jerjerrod at the very opening scenes of Return of the Jedi, passed away. He was 82 years old. And I think it's fair to say, as a face that we saw probably in the more recent years, if that makes sense, on the convention circuit, he didn't seem to do a lot back in the day. It got more and more over the last few years until his health reached a point where he couldn't attend events anymore. I interviewed him for Star Wars Insider, which was a joy for me because obviously Jerjerrod is a really important character. We say this all the time. There's no small characters in Star Wars. Everybody's a piece of the jigsaw and everybody has an important role. And he is one of those characters, especially obviously in Jedi, that had deleted scenes that are actually really, really very illuminating. The moments that he has with Vader in the Emperor's throne room tell you a lot about Vader and of Jerjerrod himself, obviously. Those weren't in the final film. They're part of Star Wars legend like so many deleted scenes are. But the stuff that we had was massively important. Mark, did you ever get the pleasure of meeting Michael?
I did, yeah, a couple of times at various different events over the years. Like I said, it was more recently. It was always a sympathetic character, wasn't he, really? I mean, you always felt a little bit kind of like sorry for him in Return of the Jedi. He has kind of got like the short stick. He will be missed. He will be missed, yeah. And you're right, the character had a rotten time, but the actor had a brilliant career. I mean, he was very involved in the UK Shakespeare scene. Played roles and parts in multiple Shakespeare theatre performances over the years, highly respected. Yeah. We did actually pop a video into our article about Michael passing away that was from a few years ago now, where you had Julian Glover, who still thankfully is still with us, of course, and still hale and hearty and doing events here, there and everywhere. Michael Culver, Ken Colley, and now Michael Pennington, the three of them have now passed. Much missed, highly respected, and to Michael Pennington, thank you for the role of Moff Jerjerrod in Return of the Jedi.
Hello, I'm Dennis Lawson, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
The weekend of the 29th of April to the 2nd of May will see the London Symphony Orchestra, no less, come to the Royal Albert Hall, no less, for something that they're calling Star Wars Weekender, which will see Star Wars, Empire and Jedi all performed with the original orchestra, maybe not the original members, but the original orchestra that performed them back in 77, 1980, 1983, with the film up on that amazing screen in one of the grandest halls in the entire galaxy. I'm going, you're going, there's a bunch of other Fanthas going. It's going to be an awesome weekend. But, Mark, for people who may never have seen the London Symphony Orchestra live or experienced a movie with the orchestra playing it for you there and then. It thrills me every time I'm seeing Raiders next month at the Symphony Hall in Birmingham. I can't wait. I've done it before and I can't wait to do it again. Just give people a feel of the experience of what that's like to hear that orchestra going at it full tilt.
That's up there as like when we have to try and explain what we've brought one another on an audio podcast. It's so difficult. I've been lucky enough to see a number of films at Royal Albert Hall. And we did The Force Awakens last year.
That's right, we did The Force Awakens.
The venue itself obviously needs no real introduction. However, like the actual sound and ambience that you get when you're watching a film is just ridiculous. I think I said when we talked about it after The Force Awakens, there's moments when you're watching a film and you can go, oh my God, there's a live orchestra there. And then you start watching the orchestra and you're like, hang on a sec, I should be watching the film. And so it's such a unique experience. I've seen all the original trilogy before in concert there. And it is almost like watching the film with like a John Williams orchestra in your living room. You literally would have to have the biggest living room ever. But so the only way to do it is to do it at the Royal Albert Hall. And it's great. It's fun because, again, it's that whole thing like it's a shared community experience. So everybody tends to laugh at the points where you're supposed to laugh at. And then every now and again, there's points when you're not supposed to, but people laugh anyway. Like, the Stormtrooper bonking his head on the blast door will probably get a chuckle or two. And the fact that it's like a weekend and it's happening on the 50th anniversary, and that May the 4th kind of weekend really makes it extra special. So I'm looking forward to it, and also hanging out with the rest of the Fanthas who are going, because it's a nice herd. Yeah,
it is. We've heard about the herd of Fanthas. That's going to be great. I'd seen Star Wars and Jedi, and then last year before we went to see The Force Awakens, I did see Empire Strikes Back. So I have seen all the OT now. I would very much like to see the sequel trilogy in its entirety. I know The Last Jedi is being done in the States, and hopefully that will come over here, because I really want to hear The Rise of Skywalker, because that's a phenomenal soundtrack that's massively overlooked, because I think the film isn't as beloved as it might have been, and so the soundtrack is overlooked. But the ones that I really want to hear, massively want to hear, especially if I could only pick one, and it's Phantom Menace. I would love to hear that with the choir, just to see Phantom on the big screens of joy, but to have it with a live orchestra, and especially with a live, the London Voices that did it back in the day, that would be phenomenal. And especially if it was the LSO doing it, not to knock any other orchestra, but I think the treat for me, three treats, seeing it with you guys, being at the Royal Albert Hall, which is always a joy, but to hear the London Symphony Orchestra, that's so special. And I've just got to, I don't know, I'm jinxing it, but I'm going to say it because it is May 4th weekend, which means we will probably all be scattering to all corners of the earth after this event is finished, because Star Wars Fan Fun Day will be on that weekend. You'll probably have Disney stuff to do down in London.
Probably. Yeah.
We'll all be here, there and everywhere. What better time, if it is ever going to happen again, for the maestro to turn up at a Star Wars event in the UK than his three classics being performed at the Royal Albert Hall by the London Symphony Orchestra. I'm putting it out there. I'm manifesting John Williams to turn up for this. Who knows? Monster looking forward to this.
Hi, this is Ethan Sachs, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
So we're nearly at the end of our interviews from Surrey Star Wars Weekend in November of 2025. And the latest one is Paul Naylor, who sat down with Jonathan Cass. Jonathan was an ISB agent in Andor Season 1 and 2. So here's Paul and Jonathan at Surrey Star Wars Weekend back in November 2025, talking the wars.
So I'm with Jonathan Cass, who many of you will recognise from Andor, because you've got quite a striking look, if you don't mind me saying, sir. You've got your mop of very blonde hair. You've got that sort of... Now, look, don't take this the wrong way. You're not a nasty Nazi look, you've got a nice, if you know what I mean. And that's something that you've done in Indiana Jones, for example, yeah?
Yeah, I've made a career out of either looking like an Earth Nazi or a space Nazi. So, and I'm quite happy to...
But you're a nice chap, really, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a nice chap, but on screen I'm not so nice. But it got me into the film and TV industry in the first place.
Yeah.
Because there was a TV series called SSGB a few years ago, based on a book about... It's an alternative history where Germany have won the Second World War.
Yes, I do recall
occupied
it.
England,
timeline,
and a British detective and a German detective get together to solve a crime.
Yeah.
And because I look like a Nazi, I contacted the agency and I said, "You've got to book me on this. I look like a Nazi." And a week later I signed up with the agency, and less than another week later I was booked on this production as a Nazi. So it basically got me into the industry. Yeah.
You don't mind that, do you? I mean,
I love
it's
it.
getting you work, so it's all good.
Do you know what? I'd rather do this than I don't want to be granddad. I don't want to be someone's dad.
Yeah.
I want to be a nasty person. I want to be the next James Bond baddie. So
that would be amazing.
If anyone's listening, I'm free.
I could see you as that.
Yeah, I'm free for
that would be great.
Yeah.
So, Andor, you're in seasons 1 and 2, or season 1?
Season 1 and 2.
And 2. Yeah. Was there much difference between the two experiences?
No. Well, the only difference is, of course, season 1, we didn't actually know how it was going to be received by the fans.
Yeah.
So that was the major difference. We were filming something that we didn't know whether it was going to work or not. But we had a good idea it was.
Yeah.
Because the quality of the production was so good. And then, of course, season 2, we knew the fans loved it.
Yeah.
So in that respect, season 2 was coming into a machine that you knew had already worked.
Yeah.
So we was even more excited about coming back for season 2.
And I think initially it's reasonably well known that there was intended to be more seasons than just the 2. So was that a slight disappointment that it was sort of squished down in terms of timeline, or?
Well, yes and no, because it cost a lot of money to make.
Yeah.
And it took a long time to make. So if they'd done 5 seasons, Diego Luna, Andor, he would have looked quite a bit older than he does at the beginning of Rogue One.
That's a very good point, and I must admit that's something I did think of at the time. So
Yeah.
I think you're right there, and really it blends seamlessly from the end of Andor into Rogue One. So it did work well. Yeah.
Yeah, but for those 2 reasons, money and time, time-wise, it was never going to work. So it had to be condensed into 2.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit sad because I would have loved to have carried on my role as ISB officer.
Yeah.
So,
now, remind me, do we see the demise of your character at all?
No.
No. So there's opportunities in the future. You never know.
Or they might do a sideline.
Yeah.
Where they go off into a different dimension time-wise.
Yeah.
So there could be a spin-off.
Yeah.
So
would be nice.
Again, anyone listening, I'm up for that.
So we've already mentioned Indiana Jones. How did that come about?
Basically, because I'd played a German officer in Nazi megastructures, SSGB, also a film called Allied with Brad Pitt and Marion Coulthard, released in 2017. I kind of got the look, and the agencies I with know I have this look.
Yeah.
So when it came round to Indiana Jones, basically it was a shoe-in for me.
Yeah.
And I got to film. We went up to Bamborough Castle, just
famous Bamborough Castle.
The famous Bamborough Castle on the coast.
Yeah.
We saw some amazing sunrises because we did 6 nights of night shoots. Driving around in World War II vehicles, getting shot, blown up, and and I'm watching Mr. Jones get dragged into the castle to be interrogated.
So were you on the set with Harrison at the time?
Yeah, we did. We did the scenes at the castle. We did a night shoot at North York Moors Railway with Harrison, and then we went back to Pinewood Studios where we filmed a lot of the interior train scenes.
Yeah.
Where he's running through the train, on top of the train. We filmed a lot of those back at Pinewood Studios.
Yeah.
So we got to spend a fair bit of time with Mr. Ford.
Yeah. And have you got any projects coming up?
I have.
But you can't talk about
them. But I can't talk about them.
Well, it's good to know that you've got work coming up, sir.
There could possibly be a Star Wars production that I might be involved with, but that's as far as I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And I've been filming on stuff, again, I'm sorry I can't talk about because they're not going to be released till next year. Yeah, but some exciting stuff.
That's good. It's good to know that there is work beyond Andor. But
yes,
Andor's certainly been very special for the fans. It's been universally very well received. I take it you were a Star Wars fan as a youngster?
I am a Star Wars fan, and I was a 12-year-old boy queuing up outside my cinema in Crawley to see Star Wars. It wasn't named A New Hope then.
Just called Star Wars.
It was just called Star Wars. And I remember as this 12-year-old boy and coming out super excited, realising I'd just seen an amazing sci-fi.
I bet you're chuffed to bits to have been in it then, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, for me, to be in it as well. I love the film and TV industry. This is why I do it, because I love it. And to be a space Nazi in a Star Wars production
and an Earth Nazi
in an Indiana Jones production, it doesn't get much better.
What other type of Nazi could you be next?
Well, who knows?
Ghost Nazi?
A zombie Nazi. There we go.
There you go. Putting it out there.
I'm putting it out there. So yeah.
That's brilliant. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
As we mentioned earlier, Mando and Grogu is out on the 22nd of May, slightly different dates around the world, but pretty much all around that weekend. And at the UK fan event that we went to last Thursday here in the UK in London on Leicester Square, and after the screening had finished, there was a very, very interesting Q&A. And during that Q&A, Ali Plum from Radio 1 was asking the questions. And one of the questions elicited this response from Pedro. He said, "I'm completely grateful. It's the longest creative relationship I've had. It's the character that I've played the longest. Hopefully I get to continue playing him for as long as my body, or as many bodies as we put into the suit, can take it." So a little bit tongue-in-cheek and a very nice way of acknowledging the other guys that are involved in bringing Mando to life. But the crux of that, the key part of that, is it could be a fudge, it could be a steer, it could be a tease, depends on how you want to take it. Pedro is saying he would like to carry on playing Din Djarin for as long as he can. Let's say we don't know what happens after that first 20 minutes. We've seen clips in teasers and trailers, and we've got a little idea of some of the action that's coming, but none of the context. But let's say, hopefully, Mando character survives to the end of this film, and Grogu, and they come out the other side, and we come out going, wow, we can get a Mando season 4, or wow, we're going to get a Mandalorian Grogu 2. Maybe they'll call it Grogu and the Mandalorian or something like that. So Pedro is going to carry on playing the Mandalorian. One, do you think that's something that will be of interest, even if this film doesn't light the box office on fire? Would you want to see more of Mando? Does this feel like, it feels like Favreau's kind of wrapping it up. That's the vibe I'm getting. But do you think that this is the end of the road for the Mandalorian character, or can you see him seeging into other things?
I mean, one thing, I think it was really cool that during that quote, Pedro brings out the fact that it's not just him who is bringing the Mandalorian to life, which I think is really fantastic. And for those who've met Brandon Wayne and Lateef, they're lovely guys. So it does make sense, doesn't it? Like, it's a team effort to bring in the Mandalorian to life. I suppose in some respects, it's a bit like Grogu. You know, Grogu has multiple number of operators to move around and emote. But the way they've really pushed Pedro, again, out front for this, he's been at all the fan events and all the press and stuff, probably means that it really kind of hinges on him to decline to do another season. The vibe that I get from at least this film is that this could be a comic book one shot. We could have 100 films of the Mandalorian Grogu and Crystal Skull or what have you. And,
yeah,
it's got that Indiana Jones and and kind of that kind of episodic James Bondy adventure of the week kind of thing to it, which gives it lots of scope to do stuff. Yeah. So when you go into the big screen, how do you then kind of get that genie back into the small screen easily without it potentially feeling small again? So that would be the challenge. That's not necessarily to say that they couldn't do it. But on the subject of Jon Favreau, listening to him talk at that fan event in the Cineworld IMAX, he's such an inspiring guy. We know he loves Star Wars, but he doesn't come across in the way that Dave Filoni feels like he's steeped in lore. Jon feels like the lore that he knows, is the lore that he knew from growing up, but also the lore that he needs to know to tell the stories that he wants to tell, or support the stories that he wants to tell. We talked about that, Lin Brennan and Dave Filoni running Lucasfilm, but I think the partnership of Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau is a really powerfully strong partnership that could see Star Wars into the next decade or so. I wouldn't be surprised if he does step away a little bit, maybe because he's got other projects. He's probably had to put some stuff on the back burner, maybe just like at least until after his film's out. But I hope that it's not forever. And if it is, he only just takes a brief hiatus and then comes back.
When Tony Gilroy stepped away, it does feel like Tony Gilroy's built his real estate and moved on, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
And if he ever came back, it would need to be something really special or something he pitches, or they go to Tony like they did to Favreau and Filoni. Here's a chunk of time and do what you need to do with it. But like you say, with Favreau, and I could be reading this wrong, they might announce the next film next week or at D23.
Isn't it?
We don't know. It's just a gut feeling that I'm getting. It just feels like you say, maybe just for now, that's it. But it doesn't feel like he's done and dusted with it forever. For example, Kathleen Kennedy, she produced Mando and Grogu. Wonderful to see her on Leicester Square.
Fantastic.
And she'll be back for Starfighter because she produced that. And obviously Ahsoka Season 2. But logical head would say maybe once Starfighter's out and the 50th is here and we move into the summer with that film at the box office, hopefully doing great money and everybody's bigging up again on Star Wars because it's the 50th. It kind of feels, to me anyway, that maybe that's her time to move off onto other projects, do other things, and that's her time at Lucasfilm done. And maybe she will come back to produce something, but my head tells me probably she won't. She's done her thing, and she goes back to the films that she was doing before, tremendously successful, and that's her thing. Whereas Favreau, because he has done Marvel, because he has done other IPs, the Disney live-action stuff, and also you've made a great point about him and Favloni being such a great unit together. They talk well together. You can see that they spitball ideas together. But maybe Dave, as the new president, without it being overtly said, probably needs that time on his own. It's sometimes they need the time on their own. Because Favreau is such a creative, he's such a brilliant filmmaker. He's had so many hits. He's an actor that we love to watch. And you made a great observation of his talents, especially in Star Wars, very much comes from the gut, I think. Whereas Dave is a bit like Pablo in that they're steeped in the knowledge. They're really sort of embroiled in the broth of Star Wars in a way that Favreau probably isn't. And so for him to go away for a little while and then maybe come back when the project is, this is a great project for Dave, or we hope, we've said this on the show before, we hope that Bryce Dallas Howard gets the call like, Bryce, this is your film, and we would all be bouncing up and down in excitement. And, Mando and Grogu, I'm sure is going to be great fun and we're going to really have a great time. Hopefully at some point, it feels like this is the project where Dave picks up the phone and goes, hey, John, do you want to come back and do this Mando adventure or this Ahsoka film? Grogu Strikes Back, there you go.
Maybe there's a certain level of, if we're going to suck it and see what the reception is of this film, what the reception is of Starfighter. Of course, it was a Hollywood Reporter Variety when they posted all the streaming figures for the Star Wars franchise. One thing they've successfully done by doing that, and it's something that obviously Kathleen Kennedy said at the time, and we kind of all went, really? But they have successfully made a Star Wars for everyone. If you look at the demographic breakdown, there is a specific Star Wars that seems to resonate more with, different generations. There's definitely the scope and potential to do that, but it would be fun to bounce between the big screen and the small screen.
Yeah.
If they can do it, you could set the groundwork for something in a TV series that can breathe a little bit and maybe it gestates even over like a couple of seasons. It's that Filoni Avengers meetup film that everybody talked about, isn't it? But I think you could still do that. If you did it just in a fairly limited scope, i.e. but it doesn't draw in, like you have to read all the comics and all the books and everything, literally left it to either animation and or live action TV, and then you do a film, then I think that would keep the viewership quite active. The moment you start to have to go into the weeds and go, oh yeah, well, if you had read about the one shot of whatever, that explains it all, that's when you start to lose the audience, especially the more casual audience.
I know Brian and Paul say this a lot on Good Morning Tatooine about how Star Wars as an entity really misses This Week in Star Wars. It will soon not have Star Wars Inside. The last issue is pretty much on shelves now, and that's it. So there's not these releases that collate the news. There's fan sites, there's things like Fantha and stuff like that. That's exactly. But that's not the same.
People will have to listen to us to get what's going on.
We're going to scare the fandom off. But you know what I mean? It's like you need something like a This Week in Star Wars for exactly what you just said. There's so much going on in the Star Wars galaxy, and it's not always what you see on the screen. It's things that you would read in a comic or would read in a book or hear in an audiobook or whatever it might be. And so I think to collate that succinctly and put it out there for people to watch. You know, people who go into Ahsoka Season 2, you kind of got to watch at least Ahsoka Season 1. But when you get into Ahsoka Season 1 and you start going, I'm feeling like there's other stuff going on, then somebody at, you know, a Lucasfilm YouTube or TV on Disney Plus kind of show would go, well, maybe you want to go and watch these episodes of Star Wars Rebels. And that's when Leland Shee comes in and pings in with, well, watch these 3 from season 1 and these 2 from season 2 and things like that, you know. And you can do it because this is such this depth of content and depth of lore that just a little bit of a pointer is enough. What you don't want is the whole Basil exposition thing where people are sort of spelling it out for you on screen. It's cringeworthy, and there's nothing worse when it happens. But by the same token, if it isn't spelt out sometimes, people miss out on things.
I guess probably the best example from within Star Wars, I think, is probably recently, is the High Republic. I kind of went in going, do you know what? I'm going to read just the young adult and the adult novels. And obviously I was reading Marvel comics as well.
Yeah.
But then you kind of like, hang on a sec, but some of these characters have been introduced into like the junior novels. And then you're like, well, I mean, it's a junior novel. I'm probably not really missing a huge amount. But now I feel like I should have to go and buy that and read that, which I know is kind of part of the whole point of it.
Of course.
You know, obviously, because it's, as much as it's all about storytelling, it's actually not. It's about selling stuff and making profit for people. However, for many of its strengths and some of its weaknesses with the High Republic, I think that was definitely one of the weaknesses, was that it did feel like you had to read everything for it to be essential. Even though all the authors are saying, oh, no, you don't need to read it all. But to your point, I think Star Wars does need an official weekly or bi-weekly recap. So get on it, Star Wars. Okay, so that is all we have got time for this week. Quite upset that we don't have a more reaction chat to record.
I know.
But only in a few days, mate, we'll be recording the Mando and Grogu reaction chat. Probably even more off the cuff and badly rehearsed than everything else.
Rehearsed? What's this rehearsed you're talking about?
There isn't any rehearsal, yeah.
We need a hearse.
I don't write notes down on pen and paper. I try and type them into my phone, and whilst I'm watching it, and I'm just like, what the hell does that say? It just makes no sense. Ramblings and rantings of a madman. Pretty much like this podcast. However, let's get some listeners' questions fired in. So if you're listening to this for the first time, or if it's like your 1000th time, it doesn't matter. We love to hear from you, especially if you're going to see Mando and Grogu and you want to get something off your chest or something you want to ask. Please, by all means, send in your listeners' questions. We love a voicemail or just a good old email. And Mr. Newbold can tell you how you can do it.
Yes, I can. Get those questions in. There's going to be so much to talk about in a couple of weeks, but it would be lovely to get an episode out with a few questions before Mando and Grogu, because that's going to dominate the news for weeks and weeks and weeks. So get those questions in, and here's how you can do it.
Email radio@fanthatracks.com. Head to links.fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fantha Tracks TV and Fantha Tracks Radio. Thanks to James Semple for the Fantha Tracks intro, Blues Harvest for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes drop Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 o'clock UK time. Our weekly news show, Good Morning Tatooine, goes live Sundays at 9 o'clock UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fantha Tracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news.
And that's me done for this episode, mate.
Excellent. And it's me done for this episode as well. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Mr. Newbold, for joining me or having me on. I don't know how this works when you...
I don't know either. It's just randomly meet outside burger joints.
I know, we've got to stop meeting like this. It's not good for my cholesterol or waistline. But however,
tell me about it.
Just remember, you don't have to sit through 2 or 3 minutes worth of commercials at the start of each podcast. You might have a nice little intro jingle to listen to. But apart from that, Fantha is all free. We do it for the love of Star Wars. We do it for the love of you guys. And so until next week, you stay safe. And as always, may the Force be with you.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.
And we've stopped recording. Can't believe George Lucas made a cameo in Mando and Grogu.